Morning. How you doing?
Okay, Roger, when you're ready, please. Thanks.
Okay, well, Chris, first of all, any team news, injuries, any new concerns going into the game this weekend?
We obviously the long-standing injuries are still there. We have got some players that have picked up a few knocks and that, but they're nursing themselves back to fitness for the weekend. So hopefully we should have quite a large squad to choose from this weekend.
How's this week been? There's quite a lot of criticism for the performance against Crystal Palace. Has it been a difficult week, perhaps, picking the players up and getting them ready again for this weekend?
Well, I think we're all in it together, so the players themselves know that they've got to pick themselves up. It's quite an experienced squad, and I think we regroup and we have to go again. Bad performances are part of it. The main thing is that the players are still trying their best in order to get where we need to get to.
You said at the time the players didn't follow the game plan. Has it been something you've been trying to drum into them over the week in terms of that, or is it something you've had to reinforce?
I think all clubs try to play in a way that suits each game, really, and there was a few things that we didn't quite stick to at the weekend. But all in all, Crystal Palace performed well on the day, and we didn't do ourselves justice.
Just the one win in 9 now. Is it difficult? Although
you have to realise that there's reasons why people do things, and you haven't always got all the information necessary to decide whether their decisions are correct or not.
Since you've been in charge, you've brought people like Adele Rat back in, Sean Mike Phillips, you've given a few of the youngsters a go as well. Did you feel before that perhaps they weren't getting the most out of the squad and what was available, and you perhaps still trying to find that formula, but you feel that it is out there within that whole squad that you have at your disposal?
Well, what went on before me, as I said, I was not sure about why decisions were made and why they weren't. So I'm sure they were made for the best intentions of the club. As far as my decisions are regarding picking the players, there's many reasons. Injuries come into it, form comes into it. And sometimes you're forced to pick teams that maybe you may not have picked had you have a full complement of players.
Would you like to now sort of hit on a formula and say for these last matches now, these are the players that I believe are going to be the ones that can keep us up and perhaps play as close to that same 11 each week?
Well, I think that apart from the Crystal Palace games, I think that the performances have been good. Regardless whoever we've put in the team, and obviously you would love to say that you're going to pick an 11 and stick to them and they win every game from now to the end of the season. That's not always possible, because you do have injuries and you do have poor form and you do have combinations that work better than other combinations.
Neda Manoa was in before, and he talked about when they were in a relegation fight a few years ago.
Against your Arsenals and Tottenhams and teams like that. So the players themselves who have been in that situation will know how it feels, and hopefully they're stronger for their past experiences.
What's it going to take now? I mean, is it the matter of, is it the mental? Is it going out there and playing better football? Do you set a points target? So what's it going to take between now and the end of the season?
It takes people taking each game as it comes. I know it's an old cliche, but we can't start thinking 3-4 games ahead. We got to think about the next game, how we prepare, how we make sure that we don't give away silly goals like we have done, and just stay together as a squad and as a staff.
Everton in Europa action, does that help you?
No, not at all. They're a good team, a big squad. With a quality squad and a quality manager, so it doesn't help us whether they're in the Europa League or not. We're not thinking about that. We're not using that to think that we got any advantage whatsoever, because we know that we're coming up against a good team.
Their league form hasn't been particularly good. They seem to be playing better in Europe. Does that work to your advantage, though, that they come off that Europa League and perhaps that psychologically they come back into the league where they haven't been as good as they were perhaps the last 2 years?
To be honest with you, I don't really think about the other teams because when you look at the quality of their staff and their manager, I'm sure he has ways of dealing with the players and making sure that they're going to be ready for that game as if they hadn't been in Europe. So we're not looking at any advantages. We're just going to prepare the best we can for the game and not really think about Everton's preparation.
That's about Charlie Austin. He's been fantastic. There's an England squad announced later on. I know the club probably don't know at the moment, but has he done enough, do you think, for at least a call-up? Yeah,
Charlie's been fantastic this season. His work rate is unbelievable, and he's got the uncoachable thing, which is scoring goals. I'm sure that he'll be in the reckoning for the next squad.
It's announced. I don't suppose the club have actually heard anything yet.
No.
I mean, how does he compare to the other guys that are up? And you talked before about Harry Kane, who you worked with, but has he done as much as Harry Kane has anyone, particularly as in a team that's been struggling at the foot of the table? Well,
even more so. He's in a team that's struggling at the foot of the table, and he's scored, quite a few goals this season. So it goes to show that he's a quality player, and and he'll shine regardless where he plays.
Just a couple of more general points. We touched on Everton Europa. They're the last English team left in European competition. All the guys, all the clubs have gone out in the Champions League. Why do you think that is? And what does it say about the state of getting it?
Well, I mean, they've gone out in the Champions League at quite late stages, to be honest. And if you saw the game last night, Barcelona versus Manchester City, I mean, Barcelona were absolutely on fire, and Manchester City probably didn't have their best game. But I still think this is the best league in the world, and I still think that this is probably the one where everybody really wants to come and play. And we can see that by the amount of overseas players and managers that we have in this league. And I think the state of the game at the moment is healthy.
It's not made it through to the last 8 though. Do you think that as strong as this league is, would you expect to see English teams going forward? And do you think there's something that needs to change perhaps for them to progress in future years?
Well, I think that not making it to the last 8, is a blip for this country, because over the past few years, we've got to the latter stages. There's been English teams in finals, there's been semi-finals, so now and again that happens.
Players surrounding referees, a massive increase in instances of that. And I know that the FA wrote to clubs earlier on in the year as well. Why do you think that's been happening? That sort of thing. Chris Coleman yesterday I was speaking to suggested that referees need to look at themselves on their performances. Does the blame fall on the players and managers, the referees?
Well, I think when the stakes are high, people get frustrated. I mean, for our, we could have had 2 penalties against Tottenham, and all of a sudden, you win that game, and this conversation is a different conversation. So when you end up with decisions that change probably the courses of seasons, it means that players will feel that tension on the pitch. Managers will feel that tension on the side of the pitch, as we've seen. Even managers have been getting heated on the side of the pitch. I think it's a combination of both. If I'm being honest, I know I'm sitting on the fence with that, but it's a combination of both. I mean, obviously, referees are in the fire now, and because of technology, things can be looked at almost immediately. And you have managers on the side now with people with computers, and they can tell you straight away whether it was a penalty or not a penalty, and that it's in itself leads into the thoughts of the manager at that time. And maybe sometimes the anxieties do spill onto the players, but players are desperate to stay at the top level, and they're desperate to play in the top league, and they do know that incidences that are very important can change what happens to them in next season.
Is this something you've spoken to your players about?
No, not really.
Discourage them from would you discourage them?
I've got much more on my plate at the moment than worrying about that. To be honest with you, it is something that could be discussed, but we haven't discussed it at all.
Just finally from me, it's a subject we've talked about before, but Les Ferdinand is in a quotes in newspapers and documentaries talked about entrenched racism stopping more black former players becoming managers and so on. Is it something you talk to Les about? Is it something you'd go along with in terms of when he uses a phrase like entrenched racism?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, and you know, and I've said it myself about institutionalised racism in the game, but in society as well. And the evidence is clear to see.
Well, Chris, have you had to pick the players up a lot after the Palace game, or was there a bit of self-motivation considering how poor the performance was, especially in the first half?
Well, there was, I wouldn't say words said at half time by myself, but there was a heated discussion at half time, constructive heated discussion, because I think the second half performance was a lot better, and I think the players realised that they didn't want the game to fall into a debacle for the travelling fans who had woken up early that morning to come to the game. So I think the players do self-police quite a lot. We have got quite an experienced squad here, and you know, we have got people that will try their best to make sure that the other players do their best to stay focused and try to win the next game.
Is the fact that you had a heated discussion a good sign that there's still plenty of fight there, rather than maybe just everyone having their heads down and accepting things?
Yeah, the heated discussion is important, I think, because it shows that people really want to stay in the division and really want to do well for the club. So it was constructive, though. It wasn't, you know, there was no fights or anything like that, but it was constructive.
9 games left, 4 home games. Does that make the Everton game must-win given the away form this season?
I think we've been in a must-win situation for a little while, to be honest with you. But you know, as every game goes past, the must-wins it obviously is the words that you're going to use more and more. But we are aware that we're running out of time and running out of games. But all we can do is go out on Sunday and give our best, and make sure that we stay focused and concentrated for the whole game.
Do you still think you can get to that 37 to 40 point total you mentioned before, or are you now hoping that it will be a lower total than that will secure safety?
I think everybody down there is hoping it will be a lower total, but I still think we can get the points that we need.
Still think you can get 15 points?
I think we can get that. I mean, if we stop believing that we're going to stay up now, you know, then everything's, the whole season's been a wash. We're not looking at that. What we're looking at is, can we maintain the grit and determination that we've shown in the last few games, and can we make sure that we win the next game and take that into the next game and the next game and the next game.
Just finally for me, how tough a baptism has this been for you as a manager? Because obviously taking over a Premier League club is difficult at the best of times, but given the situation you inherited.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get a call from Bayern Munich or Barcelona or Man City or Arsenal, are you? You're always going to get your baptism in a situation where things appear not to be going well. So, yeah, it's a tough baptism. You know, I think I've handled it quite well with the players. You know, whether I maintain this situation or not will remain to be seen. We don't know. But as far as dealing with the situation, it's been one that I've welcomed, and I'm hoping that we can together get ourselves above that line and then start the next season in the Premier League.
Chris, can I ask you about a couple of players in particular with regards to the Everton match? Is he any close to being fit?
His knee's sore. He's trained earlier this week. We've had to rest him yesterday a little bit because there's a little bit of a reaction on that knee. Hopefully he'll be training today, and then we'll have to play it by ear closer to the game. I mean, he's another one that's shown great determination to want to be involved despite having an injury that, you know, could see him out for a long time. So that's the way the players have been. You know, even the ones that are injured want to play. You know, and I'm hoping that he'll be ready for the weekend.
Darnell came in for him against Palace and was withdrawn at half time. With a calf problem, is that?
Yeah, see another youngster. You know, he had a calf problem, and really, you know, he was determination to play. But unfortunately for him, you know, we had to take him off at half time because, you know, it seized up and we're going to probably need him later on in the 9 games that are going to come. We're going to need a full squad.
Are you confident that one of those right backs will be fit? Because beyond them, there aren't too many, but I know Miller can do a job there.
I'm hoping that they're both fit, but if they're not, you've got your squad of 25. You've got to jiggle it around.
Fantastic photos of Ali Hoilett back on the training field.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything? It's a relegation match, but could he play again this season, or be just put on the shelf to just build towards the next season?
I think it's very unlikely that he's going to play. I mean, it's great that he's back in. I mean, we could do with him now, but it's unlikely that he's going to be ready.
Joey Barton was on the final run during the week. He said that Leroy Fair and Richard Dunn maybe aren't as far away as people thought they might be. Any chance this season that either of those might get their way back?
I think there's a brief chance that they could be back, and we're just hoping. I mean, to be honest with you, when they come in the mornings, they're coming in early, they're working, sometimes twice, 3 times a day to make sure that they're fit. So they can only do what they're doing. There's no more that they can do as professionals to get themselves fit. And we got a really good medical staff here, and they're here round the clock trying to get them fit.
Just finally, Rio Ferdinand wasn't in the squad for the Palace game. You went for a very attacking bench. Did Rio have a problem, or was that just a
No, Rio was under the weather. He was under the weather a little while ago, and it's just he hasn't really fully recovered. So it was pointless him being around the boys. He wanted to be involved, but we thought it was best that he wasn't.
It just seems incredible when the manager before you seems to have quite a good run of luck with injuries. You couldn't have really had any worse, barring Charlie or Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, the baptism. Sometimes you learn everything you need to learn in your first couple of months, but you have your 25, and that's why you have a 25, and you're hoping that the 25 is versatile enough to cover eventualities. I'm never going to be one that's going to really moan about injuries. I mean, the fact that we've had to name with the squad that we've named, you have to trust the players, and all you can do is the best you can do with the players that are available to you, and the players themselves will do the best that they can do on the weekends. And like I said, all in all, barring a poor spell at Crystal Palace, I think the performances have been good. And we're hoping that we can get back on the horse this weekend and give the fans something to really sing and back us about.
Okay. Ali Fowler's not in the 25, so he can't play between now and the end of the season. If you turn the cameras off unless you film for a couple of ways.
Rio, will he be well enough for Sunday?